So to add the objects manually, your local object repository should be open, yeah, if you're adding it in the local object repository, and your application should be open side by side. So when I click on this plus icon over here, which means I can add the objects in the object repository manually, click on this button. So it will minimize and you can see the application. Now I'll click exactly on the edit box, and when I click that, it will say, you can see the WinEdit class object, which is agent name. Now it's saying that the location you clicked is associated with several objects. Select the required object. Now you can select the parent as well. In that case, when you add the parent, the child won't be added, but when we add the child, everything gets added in the hierarchy, in the upper hierarchy. So when I click OK, now as you can see, this object is added. Now why do I say that it's a good practice to add manually objects rather than recording? Because in long run, when the code is complicated, the application is big, there are a lot of functionalities which has to be tested, it becomes difficult to keep track of what has been recorded, and the objects could be confusing. So when I do it manually, I know what I'm doing step by step. It's a systematic way of programming, I would say. So one thing is, we know that it's a dialog box. So I'll start with write dialog. When I open the bracket, QTP will automatically recognize, since there's only one object, dialog object added. If you're not sure of this, what is the name of the class, you can just click on the object. You can see in class it is mentioned as dialog. When you type dialog and open bracket, QTP will itself add the name, recognize the name. In case there are multiple dialog boxes with different names, QTP will give a drop down and you can select any one of them. I'll close the bracket. Now the parent has been added in the code. Dot. Now I can add the child. These are the different methods which are associated with parent, like click, close, drag, drop, exist. So right now we want the child, and child is here. As you can see, the icon is a bit different from other. These are the methods which can be performed on dialog, but currently we want to add the child in the code, so we are clicking on this. Double click. Now when again you open, it will automatically add agent name. I close this. Dot. Now it will show all the methods which are associated with agent name, edit box. So these are the objects which are associated with edit box. Now I have to put the agent name, so there's a method called set. This will set the value for the edit box. Space, in inverted comma, we put the name, which is test in our case. Enter. So the single line of code will enter test in the edit box. Now next is, we'll keep the application open side by side. We click on the password. You can see it's similar. Okay, this is the password. Now I'll show one more thing. Just click on the object password, you drag it on the screen, and you'll see the code is automatically generated. Now this is a shortcut way of writing the code. Instead of typing, you can just drag and drop. Even this is a good method. What QTP does is, it will on the basis of hierarchy, it will add the parent, the child, and it will perform the operation on the password. Since you clicked on the password and dragged it, will perform the default operation. WinEdit, in edit box, the default operation is adding some text, that is set, whereas in case of button, it is click, because click is something very common we do with the button. So click is the default method. Set. Now this we have not encrypted since we are doing it manually. Our next line of code, we are adding OK button, and when we drag this, dot click. As I said, click is the default option for WinButton class, that is Windows button. And when we run this code, it will perform the same operation. Incorrect password. Since password is not the password was Mercury, so we'll put Mercury over here, and now we run the code. So QTPS, just open the application, it has put the ID password and clicked on OK button. Now we'll see how shared repository works. Now unlike local object repository, you need to save this explicitly. The advantage of this is that when there's a change in the object description, you just need to change only one shared repository which is shared amongst different actions, rather than changing each and every object repository associated with each and every local repository which is individually associated with each and every action. So if you have a common shared object repository, you just need to make a single change and it will be reflected in all the actions. This reduces a lot of maintenance work, hence it is recommended to use shared object repository in real time. Now what you can do is you can also export a local object repository to a shared object repository. I'll show you how. Now this is your local object repository. Okay,